Hey there, Portable for Parents. Mr. McCauley here. This is a quick video of the slides I showed at different times during the curriculum night. Perhaps you saw some of them, perhaps you didn't. I thought I would do a full run through here. At least that way I can get all my information out into one spot. Here's what everyone looked like, almost everyone anyways, at 8:45 on day one. A lot of happy, smiling faces, probably a lot of nervous kids at the same time. What's this teacher going to be like? Here's my family. Yeah, my wife is also a teacher, and my kids are in grade 11 and grade 8. Me, I've been teaching over 20 years. This is my second year at Chine. I had a really good reception last year, and I'm really happy to be back. And this is my second year doing grade 5, 6. Here's our class. The makeup of the class is I have 19 grade 5s and 6 grade 6s. So mostly grade 5s, obviously. So this is what our day looks like, our schedule. I've made up the schedule trying to balance all the different things I have to do and teach the kids. It changes from day to day. Larger projects suddenly balloon into needing more time, and so it's a very fluid thing, but let's just talk about some of the important parts of the day. 4 days a week I try to have a big language block in the morning. That's usually for reading and writing. And math, big emphasis on math this year, as in every year. And I've got different segments, timetable, different points for math, 4 times a week. French is always after recess with Miss Tam. Health is with Ms. Barczyk, and we have a partnering session, which means her and I can work together after health with the kids on any subject and any project. We have science about 3 times a week in 4 different periods, and what we've organized this year is the grade 6s in my class. The 6 grade 6s are going to go to Miss Ball in the portable next door and work with all of her grade 6s. While I do science with the grade 5s. So I do the science with the grade 5s. The grade 6s go see Miss Ball. Her grade 7s go to see Miss Tam. So she's just doing grade 6 science. I'm just doing grade 5 science. And we have gym 3 times a day. The kids are awesome in the sense that, you know, you might forget this or that, but they know it's today gym. It's today gym. That's something they just never forget. And music is starting soon. It's going to be either strings or band, and when it does happen, you'll get more information as I get it, and that's going to be happening twice a week after lunch. Here are classroom rules. I tried to make them really straightforward, open-ended, easy to understand. We've been talking a lot about hashtags, so that's why we wrote them as hashtags this year, but whenever something goes wrong, I can really quickly take a look at which of the rules apply. And I think we've kind of tried to balance, do the right thing with have fun and think. So how do I go about teaching in a split grade? Here's just a math example. I might try to give an open-ended question so that the 5s and 6s can work together to the best of their ability. For example, the other thing I might try to do is do something called a parallel task. Let's talk about the open-ended question first. I might ask them in number to say, tell me all the ways you can make 24. So we might start by adding and subtracting, multiplying, dividing, obviously. We might get to, some kids might know negative numbers, some kids might know decimals. So there's lots of ways we can keep going with that question and work it, whether you're in grade 5 or grade 6. In a parallel task, I might just give 2 choices. One choice at one grade level and one choice at the other grade level, and have kids choose. Typically, I'm going to hope that they are going to choose an option that challenges them. And if I think they've made the wrong choice, I can gently push them towards one or the other. But it could be an example of one similar task where the end point might be slightly different for different kids in different grades. Okay, let's talk about homework. Typically, in terms of homework, there are 2 different ways that homework usually might come home. More often than not, it's probably going to be unfinished work that they do in the classroom. but it also could be work that I specifically assign and say, this is homework, go work at home. By far, I think, like I said, the unfinished work will probably be the largest segment. Now, if it's coming home too frequently, if it's multiple times a week, then we'll have a chat then. We'll be talking about why maybe your son or daughter is not getting the work done in class. Generally speaking, I try to give enough time that I think for the students to complete a certain task. It doesn't always happen like that. There are times when our time gets cut off, but generally speaking, I give enough time. And yeah, if you're finding also, I'm a parent, and I know that there are nights when my daughter gets some homework and she's up maybe for a couple hours and the tears are flowing, and I don't want that experience either. So if that's happening at home as well, there's a time we just say, okay, give it a break. And every once in a while, if homework's not done, it's not really a big concern, especially if there's certain circumstances that come up. But generally speaking, we're going to try to hopefully assist and support our kids to get their work and their homework finished on time. Now, in the TSB, our homework policy dictates that some of the reasons why you would get homework assigned, this is not unfinished work, is usually if it's something that they need to practice, if it's in preparation for something that's coming up, or if it's something that would extend their learning. Now, in the junior grades this year, there is no formal agenda, so I gave everyone just half of a notebook, and I'm going to ask them to write down important assignments or dates and things like that. If you need to write me a letter or a note, you could put it in there. Could you just make sure that your son or daughter shows it to me? Because I'm not checking the agenda every day. I'm really using it for them to record what they need to do. Without a formal agenda, it's a bit of a vacuum as to how are they going to record the things they need to do. And this was just a quick, easy way of doing it. In terms of technology, I love technology, and we are blessed in our portable. I've gathered a lot of technologies, and the school has a lot of devices as well. Is it enough? It's not always enough. It's not always we can do one-to-one. I often have kids work, some kids on the computer, some kids doing something else and switching and things like that. So we make it work. We use a lot of Google apps and the TDSB, Google Docs, Google Slides. They're all kind of like Word Lite or PowerPoint Lite, but the advantage is that as long as they can get on a computer with any internet access, then they can get to their work. The work gets saved automatically. It's really quite a well-run system. I really am a big supporter of Google Apps. And I run everything through Google Classroom. Google Classroom is where I can make assignments or post comments or things like that. It might look something like this, where I might write, here's let's say, an assignment about writing about the rules, and I can upload the template I want them to use. And, I've also, here's an example where I've posted the grade 5 and 6 math textbook in chapters 1 and 2, so the kids don't have to bring their textbook home, or if they forget to bring it home, they've got that. They've got the link there in Google Classroom. It's kind of like our portal as to where all our our learning often gets started from. So typically they're going to need some home access at some point. If they have a home computer or a computer they can use, that's fantastic. If they don't, there's always any computer, like a library computer, a friend's computer, a cousin's computer, all that stuff will help them to get their work done when they're doing a Google Docs type of a project. This year, there's not a lot of kids who are openly bringing phones to school. Typically, a kid might use a phone for emergency purposes. There are times when maybe a phone could be of value doing research and things like that, but we also have other devices for that. So typically, I'm going to ask them at this point to keep their phones in their bags. They're not supposed to be out at recess or at lunchtime unless it's a rainy day. So I'm going to ask for your support with that, and so far the kids have gone along with that really well. And we do have a bring your own device policy, again, because they don't always have enough devices for everybody. When we're doing larger projects, if kids want to, they're able to bring a computer to school and use their own computer. We have Wi-Fi here, and away they go. They don't have to by any means, though. We have lots of devices here. But bringing your own device means you get to use your own equipment. There's no waiting, etc., etc. So if you want to communicate with me, probably the best way is through email. So there's my name, colin.mccauley@tdsp.owen.ca. If you're able to drop in or before or after school, I'm often here, not every day, but most days I'm here early and I stay a little bit after school at least. And you can always make an appointment by calling the school, of course. And we're on Twitter. So the hashtag that I use, or the username I use for Twitter for school stuff, is Chine TDSP. So I want to talk a little bit about assessment. Inside the Ontario curriculum for all the subjects, they have the same kind of achievement chart. I won't bore you with the details, but I just wanted to highlight that there really are 4 different sections that a teacher normally would be assessing a student on. The first one is the knowledge understanding. This is the rote learning, being able to regurgitate facts and the basic knowledge that they gain from one unit. This is also the math facts and knowing your times table, and just those knowledge part falls under this category. But there's also the thinking questions. And you'll notice when I start doing math tests that I try to divide the questions up into the 4 different categories, so that these kind of questions usually ask kids to make some kind of plan and follow that plan out. Application kind of means when they're taking something they've learned and they have to apply it to a slightly different context. And finally, communication measures how clearly they can communicate their learning. So here are just a few other things we talk about. They really need a very good pair of shoes for running, basic running shoes. Later on, when the weather gets lousy, we'll go to indoor-outdoor shoes. But right now, we need a good pair of shoes. Because we have gym 3 times a week, they really should probably either be leaving them at school or be wearing those running shoes every day. Sandals are kind of fun and summery, but pretty soon, we're going to need some running shoes. Again, music and strings are coming up. There's a bit of a wrinkle in terms of the space and what the location is, but we're hoping that'll all get ironed out and more information about that will follow. And our French teacher is Ms. Tam. They have 40 minutes of French per day after morning recess. And science we talked about already. I do the grade 5s and Ms. Ball is going to do the grade 6s. And health is Ms. Barczyk. So those are all the extra teachers that are involved. Besides support teachers, those are the extra teachers that are involved in your child's education. So some of the highlights for the things I want to try to do this year. First of all, speech arts. Last year I found it very successful and an interesting experience for kids to write and perform a speech in front of our classmates or even in front of the school, and that will happen again this year. We are going to camp. Yes, we are, in May, 8th to the 10th, and all the grade 5s and 6s are going. I really encourage you to send your kid to camp. If you're thinking, I don't want my kid to go to camp, I will say to you that, going to camp is an experience that you just will not get living here in the city. So I encourage you, if you're worried about safety, we can talk about that. But I'm hoping to get a lot of kids interested in going to camp this year. I'm going. I really love different types of media and kids making media. And one of the things I want to do with the kids is to do a lot of recording. So I'm kind of thinking of doing like a radio station of sorts. And I'll work that into my language program. And I'm going to call it probably Chine Radio. So more information to come. Also, if you have a budding, not filemaker, filmmaker, sorry about that. My daughter last year had an amazing experience in her school where the kids produced small films, sent them to the student part of TIFF, and hers was selected and it got shown. And it was an awesome experience. And I've always wanted to do that with kids. I think this could be the year where that gets done. And finally, sports teams. I did a lot of coaching last year, and I try to make sure that the grade 5s and 6s, the grades I teach, are well represented in different sports teams. So I'm hoping that your son or daughter is interested in that. If they're not, that's okay too. But, at Chine we don't have a lot of kids, so it's awesome when we have lots of kids participating. Anyways, that is it. Thank you so much for listening to this long curriculum night slides, and I know it's going to be a great year. Thank you.